Most travelers to Austria stick to the cities, Vienna, Salzburg, maybe a day trip to Hallstatt. But if you stop there, you're missing out on one of the best parts of the country, the Austrian Alps. On days 4 and 5 of our 12-day road trip, my friend Natalie and I went off the beaten path and found a lake that completely blew us away, Gosausee. Tucked deep in the mountains, this hidden gem feels like a scene out of The Sound of Music, only with fewer crowds and even more jaw-dropping views. In this video, I'll show you why Gosausee needs to be on your Austrian bucket list by sharing our experience with an amazing hike and a thrilling, dare I say, life-altering bike ride, with tips along the way to help you plan your own visit. My name is Keanu, and this is your travel guide to Gosausee. To give you a brief overview of what the video will look like, we'll first discuss a beautiful hike along Gosausee that we did on day 4. Then I'll highlight a thrilling mountain e-biking ride we did on day 5. The more family-friendly option of the two is the hike. Here's what you need to know about the Gosausee hike. It's an 8.1 mile, 1,171 feet elevation gain, out and back, moderately challenging trail. The name Gosausee translates to Gosau Lake, with Gosau being the name of the nearby town. Technically, you'll encounter 2 lakes on the hike, Vorderer and Hinterer Gosausee, translating to the front and rear lake. Parking is very simple. You can park at the Gosausee parking lot, as listed in Google Maps. It's a huge lot, and just for reference, we arrived at 8 in the morning on a Wednesday, and there was basically no one there. Let's get into the hike itself. I will highlight 5 points of interest in order so that you can better understand the layout of the hike. Number 1. Vorderer Gosausee. The hike begins at the side of the first lake, just a stone's throw away from the parking lot. As you can see, we were quite unfortunate with the weather. Here's an unobstructed view of the lake in the exact same location that I took the following day during our bike ride. Quite the difference. Even though the weather was not ideal, if you've ever done a hike in cloudy weather, it's still a vibe. It creates this mystical environment, and for us, it allowed a nice break from the European summer heat. Number 2. Gosauseen and waterfalls. After strolling along the lake, you'll enter a more forested area. Gosauseen, I'd say, is not a lake, rather a small pond that kind of connects the 2 bigger lakes. Natalie is an avid bird watcher, and she was able to spot a couple of birds and also a pair of alpine salamanders. Not far from here were some unnamed small waterfalls that were even cooler in person. Up to this point, the trail has been relatively flat, so if you want to keep it easy, you can just turn around here and head back, and that would make a 4-mile hike. However, I recommend continuing on to the rear lake. Number 3. Hinterer Gosausee. On the way to this lake is when the elevation picks up. You'll get some great views of the Dachstein Mountains, which brings me to this video's travel trivia. Let's see if you can get it right. The Dachstein Mountains is a prominent mountain range of the Austrian Alps. Specifically, they are a part of the northern fill-in-the-blank Alps, named for its distinct geological features. With the help of these background clips, what is this region called? A. Northern Basalt Alps, B. Northern Granite Alps, or C. Northern Limestone Alps? The answer is C. Northern Limestone Alps. What makes a limestone mountain distinct is its pale gray to white color, marked with sparse vegetation throughout, and its steep, straight, and often vertical cliffs. You might recognize more famous limestone mountain formations like at Halong Bay in Vietnam, or the White Cliffs of Dover in the UK. If you like travel trivia like this, then make sure to subscribe. Okay, let's get back to the hike. Even though the weather prevented us from seeing lake views like these, at least we would enjoy a nice meal at the hut at the end of the lake, right? Wrong. Number 4. Hohe Holzemister Alm. We got to the hut only to discover it was closed. Big mistake on my part. Apparently, the only day of the week they're closed is Wednesdays, and of course, that's when we went. So, just a quick reminder to check hours of operation of things, especially when abroad. With empty stomachs, we headed back to the start. One last highlight is we came across a snake on the side of the trail. Later that trip, we identified the species to be the common European viper, which is apparently venomous. Number 5. Gasthof Gosausee. Despite the lake hut being closed, we did fill our stomachs in the end with a restaurant located at the beginning of the hike. And you know what? It was really good. We sat outside, had a fantastic view of the lake, and ate some of the best traditional Austrian food we had during our entire trip. I had a Tiroler Grossel, a hearty dish with pan-fried potatoes, bacon, and topped with 2 sunny-side eggs. And Natalie had beef goulash, which is a tomato-based stew served with pasta and tender chunks of beef. We ate our meals with our beverage of choice, the Radler, half lemonade, half beer. Don't knock it till you try it, super refreshing. Overall, I highly recommend hiking in Gosausee even in subpar weather, but of course, if you have the time to plan it in good weather, do that. Speaking of good weather, next up is our e-biking experience in the Austrian Alps. This was a life-altering experience for the better and the worst, and soon you'll see why. So, I'm not a mountain biker, but the reason why I really wanted to do this is because I saw a breathtaking photo of this area online, specifically this photo. I just knew I needed to see it in real life, and the most accessible way to see it is by mountain bike. Did we end up seeing this view? We'll find out. Now, you can either go on an e-biking tour where you go with a guide or rent a bike yourself. We did not do the e-biking tour because it was very expensive. I'm talking $180 per person. And we thought, no way. Instead, we rented bikes for much cheaper, at around $60 per person. By the way, we rented our e-bikes from this shop, and the guy who helped us was very friendly, so go ahead and check him out. If you rent a bike from one of these shops, they'll give you a map or an app that you can follow on your phone during the bike ride. Here's a quick overview of the bike route. We started from Gosau, biked along the valley, went up a steep mountain, had the option to have lunch at a hut, then began our descent, eventually meeting up with Gosausee, the lake that we hiked at yesterday, and finally rode back to Gosau through the valley. It was about an 18-mile bike ride with 2,500 feet of elevation gain, with all of the elevation taken care of in the first half. Okay, let's break down this bike ride. The first section in the valley was beautiful. Little did I know the chaos that would quickly ensue. This next section, the steep, never-ending mountain, was rough for us. Let me paint you a picture. We're stopping every 5 minutes to catch our breath. Quads are on fire. Natalie at one point is legit sobbing because how hard it is. At one point we make a wrong turn, and at several points we actually lose signal, so we can't even follow the map. And the worst of it all, I suffered a knee injury. My right foot was planted on the ground, I pushed off, and I heard a loud pop. Instantly, I knew I was screwed. Long story short, I ended up getting knee surgery months later to remove a piece of floating bone that apparently got dislodged in my knee. Crazy stuff. Comment below if you've ever had an injury while traveling and how you dealt with it. I know I can't be the only one. Anyhow, we somehow made it to the top, and near the top is a hut called the Badstum Hut, where you can take a break and get some refreshments, but we decided to skip it. When you start the descent, do the views really start to shine. In July, the mountains were not snow-capped, but they were still an impressive sight. Now, my biggest regret of this bike ride is that we somehow missed the lookout point where those incredible photos online were taken. It was quite the shame because that was the reason why I wanted to do this bike ride in the first place, but here's the exact location so you don't miss out yourself. Eventually, you'll reach Vorderer Gosausee. It was nice for us to see the lake again in clearer weather and see the top of the Dockstein Mountains. At the lake, you're not allowed to ride your bike, so you'll walk the very short distance to the end of the lake. Then, you'll take a short ride on the main highway that wasn't as nerve-wracking as we thought it would be. One of my favorite views of the bike ride was this last bit here, where you ride along the river on the valley floor. We finally made it back to the bike rental shop. The bike ride ended up taking 3.5 hours with several rest breaks in between. Now the main question, the verdict. Is the e-biking ride worth it? I know I made this bike ride sound like the bike ride from hell by highlighting all the things that went sideways for us, but in reality, I do think it was worth it. Despite the freak accidents, the mishaps, it was still an incredible ride that I know I will never forget. I will say though that Natalie may have a different answer. Now, here is the one thing I would do differently. I would book the e-biking tour. Yes, it's a very steep price, but you will avoid a lot of the headache and panic that we encountered. You won't get lost, you won't miss the incredible vista points like we did, you won't have to check your phone every 3 minutes to make sure you are indeed on the correct path since bike paths are unmarked. And you won't experience the panic of losing signal and trying to figure out how to get down the mountain without a map. Overall, going on a tour will undoubtedly reduce your stress and increase your enjoyment. Learn from our mistakes. Now, the tour that I would recommend and that I was considering before all of this is this one here. It has a 5-star rating online. It's with the company called Nemo Point Gosau, and it was within their Google reviews where I came across this photo that started it all. You can book it on viator.com, which I'll leave a link in the description below. Overall, Gosau and its Lake Gosausee is an incredible area with epic views and adventures that await you. And the crazy thing is that it's often missed even though it's just a quick 30-minute drive from Hallstatt, the lakeside village made popular on social media. A lot of you may be considering visiting Hallstatt, so if you need some guidance on what you can do in that town, then feel free to check out my latest video on Hallstatt here. As always, happy travel planning and see you in the next adventure.